My versions there.
Dear students, in our previous class, we have discussed regarding the characteristics of hopes. So we shall continue the same thing today also. So in our previous class, we have discussed regarding the first characteristic, that is object. Okay, object. How an object can be given. We will take two examples here. One example is of object student. Object student. The next is object teacher. Object teacher. So under this thing, under object student and object teacher, two things are there. One is member data. They can also be called as data members. Okay, it includes name of a student, then a register number, then course. After that, data functions. Sorry, member functions. Member functions. It includes associated member functions. Okay, object is a group of data members and associated member functions. Related to these things, member functions should be there. That is get data and display. You know that indicating these two parentheses, open and closing parentheses, it means it is a function. So you can identify a function very easily. If anywhere you see open and closing parentheses, then you need to understand that this is a function. Okay, like this. An object can be defined. An object is having a unique name. Okay, it is a group of data members and associated member functions. Same as teacher. For teacher also, here member data. Okay, data members can also be called as member data. This also includes name of a teacher, then which subject he or she will teach, then to which course he or she will teach. Then after that, same here, member functions. Member functions. Same thing here, get data. Get data, it is a function. Then display, it is also a function. So like this, a object can be given. Okay, in my previous class I had given the definition of object. Okay, with that definition, if you write these two objects with associated data members and member functions, then your answer will become correct. Okay, hope you have understood regarding object. I will explain you. Object is a group of data members and also associated member functions. Hope understood this. Next, come to second thing, that is class. What is a class and how can we define a class? And what are the things are included in a class? Just like you remember these two things. One is a object student. The next one is the object teacher. So now we are going to express these things under a class. Okay, look here. Class. So here class means a class is a way of grouping, is a way of grouping a class is a way of grouping objects having having similar characteristics. Having similar characteristics. Okay, the same example we will take here, that is class. Okay, take the class name as student. Okay, class name as student. As in your month of May, we have in the month of April, we have discussed regarding, I have given some programs regarding class. Okay, you have written and you are aware of these things. Okay, a class is a way of grouping objects having similar characteristics. Student, it is having similar characteristics, just like name, register number, course, date of birth, okay, father name, address, contact number, and many things. So grouping that type of objects, okay, which are having similar characteristics, that is called as a class. So next point here, once a class is defined, any number of objects, of that class are created. Okay, once if a class is defined, then required amount of objects can be created under a class. Okay, the next thing here, okay, take an example. For example, comma, sun, moon, and planets. Sun, moon, and planets are the objects. Sun, moon, and planets are the objects. We can take this as objects, sun, moon, and planets. But these objects should have one class. Okay, for that, in that class, these objects are created. Okay, objects of the class solar system. Solar system is a class. Okay, and this sun, moon, and planets are the objects. This is example given. Like this, a class can be created with the name of either student or teachers, anyhow, as we want. Okay, class name is a user defined type. We can give our own class name. Okay, that is actually the class. See, classes are user defined data types. User defined data types. A class can hold both data and functions. Okay, it is a user defined data type, means the name whichever you want you can give here. Okay, under the two access specifiers will be there always. The first one is the private. Under private access specifier, you have to give the data members, that is character type, it may be student name. Okay, then integer type, it may be register number. And after that, again character type, the course of a student. Okay, these are data members. As I have given example under object, that is object example, but here is the class example. Then after that, under public access specifier. Okay, two functions we have given. Which are the two functions? One is get data. Okay, the next one is display. Get data and display. After that, a class can be closed by a brace followed by semicolon. Here, one thing you need to remember while giving a class name and while giving member function names. Okay, if you have given a starting letter as the capital letter, then you need to remember that in the whole program, the class name wherever it comes and the member function wherever they come, at the time, every time you have to give everywhere capital letter only. So for that thing, this is case sensitive. Class name is case sensitive and the member functions are case sensitive. Okay, uppercase or lowercase. So you have to give, better to give the small letter itself. If you forgot that we have given the capital letters, even if we continue with small letter, then you will get more number of errors. The program execution may take a lot of time. It will become complex for you to clear the errors. So you have to do is at the time of starting only, you have to give the small letters. If you give small letters, then at the time, if you continue with the small letters in the entire program, then it will not become complex for you. Easily, the errors are solved. You will get the less amount of errors so that you can clearly clear the errors. Okay, so for that thing, remember that while giving class name and while giving member function names, at the time, give the starting letter of the class name and member functions only with small letters. Okay, if you take the same example for teacher, then at the time only one thing is going to be changed here. The first is class, this is teacher. Okay, under that, for teacher register number will not come. Okay, so take this as char subject. Char subject. After that, same things, get data and display are the member functions. So this is called as a class. One, a class is a way of grouping similar characteristic objects. And the second thing, once if the class is given, any number of objects are created for that class. Then a class is a user-defined data type. Okay, we can give any name for the class, and after that, a class can hold both data and functions. See here, data is also present, and functions are also present. So, like this, we can give a class definition. Next, come to the third thing. We have discussed regarding object and class. Then come to the third thing. That is data abstraction. Data abstraction. Abstraction means giving a thinking, a view, or a sketch. This should be like this. That type. So this is called as abstraction proficiency. Okay. Abstraction refers to the process of representing essential features, essential process of representing essential features without including background data and explanation. Okay, abstraction means it's a process of representing essential features of a class or an object. Okay, without including background data, whatever the things included under the class or under the object, without including that and without taking any explanation. Okay, the next point here. Data abstraction permits the user to use an object without knowing its internal working. Okay, it will allow the user, okay, permits the user to use an object, okay, without knowing its internal working. A user can use an object with the help of data abstraction. How he can use the object? He doesn't know how the object is working internally. Without knowing that, a user can able to work with an object, use an object. So data abstraction will provide this feature to the user. Then classes use the concept of abstraction. And are defined as a list of abstract attributes such as weight and cost, and functions to operate these attributes. Here, classes use the concept of abstraction. For what it will use? For example, take a duster as an example. Think this is an object, but it is having two attributes. One is the weight of this duster, and another one is the cost of this duster. Okay, so classes will use the abstraction to give the attributes of a list of attributes like weight and cost. Okay, classes will use the abstraction to give the attributes of an object, and also they will give the functions to operate these attributes. Okay, classes will give functions to operate the attributes, and also it will use abstraction to give the attributes of an object. Anything it may be, just not cost or weight is an attribute. Depending upon the thing, attributes must be there. So for that thing, here data abstraction will be used. Hope you have understood this. Next, come to data encapsulation. The fourth thing is data encapsulation. Data encapsulation. Data encapsulation is here. Everything is used under data only. So first thing is data. The next thing is methods. Methods itself are called as functions. Okay, data and methods. Two things are there in an object. One is data and the other one is methods. Methods are called as the functions only. Don't get confused. Methods are functions only. So data encapsulation is completely depends on data. Under any object, data encapsulation is there, means it is completely dependent on data, not on functions. And here methods means they are functions itself. Now come to the point. Data encapsulation combines both data and functions, into a single unit, called class. Okay, what it will do? It will combine both data and functions. It will combine both data and functions to form a single unit called as class. Okay, you have to remember this thing. As I am underlining here, if you underline these points, you will get marks clearly. Okay, under the object, data and functions are there. So here, data encapsulation, it will combine both data and functions. Okay, to form a single unit called as a class. And next thing, data encapsulation will prevent direct access to data. Okay, it will not allow, data encapsulation will not allow direct access of a data. Okay, it will prevent accessing direct data directly. The next point, the data can be accessed only through methods. Okay, what are methods? I've shown you. Method means functions only. Okay, methods means functions. Here, data can be accessed only with the help of functions. It cannot be accessed directly, which are present inside the class. Okay, data cannot be accessed directly, and the data can be accessed, okay, only through methods. Methods means functions itself, which are present inside the class. Okay, then next point, the data cannot be modified. The data cannot be modified by an external non-member function of that class of a class. Okay, it means think here. Data cannot be modified by an external non-member function of a class. It means if one class is there by name student, it is having two member function. One is get data, another one is read. And one more class is having by name teacher. It is also having get data and display. But the function which is present under teacher class, under the class teacher, that is get data and display, it is a non-member function for the class student. And the functions which are present under the student class, that is get data and display, they are called as non-member functions for the class by name teacher. Okay, so here what it is saying means from that type of non-member functions, that is the member function of the class teacher will not do any modifications under the class student, and the member function of the class student will not do any modifications under the class by name teacher. So like that, data encapsulation will help. And the last point under data encapsulation, that is data encapsulation enables data binding and information hiding Okay, look here. Data binding, next characteristics we shall discuss. So remember that data encapsulation, it will enable data binding. Remember data binding. What is data binding? We'll discuss later. And information hiding, it will allow the user to hide the information. So this is called as the data encapsulation. Okay, next come the next characteristics, that is inheritance. And dear students, remember one thing, you have next chapter as classes and objects. Then after that, one more chapter you are having by name only the inheritance. Classes and objects is the next chapter, that is 7th chapter for you. Then after that, you have one more chapter by name inheritance. Okay, after classes and objects, function overloading is there. Then you are having constructors and destructors. After that, you are having inheritance. So now we are going to discuss regarding inheritance very shortly. Okay, the object class. Okay, then inheritance. What is mean by inheritance? Inheritance means creating the subclasses from the existing class, that is called as inheritance. A class is created under the class with the help of the old class, that is called as inheritance. So we shall see here a super class is there. We can call this as a super class. Okay, think this as this is a main class. Okay, and this is having, by this class we are going to create the two classes, that is subclass 1 and subclass 2. Subclass 1 and subclass 2. We are going to create two classes. So this is called as inheritance. Okay, with the help of a superclass, if you create two more classes, or if you create any number of classes from the existing class, that is called as inheritance. I will give you one more example. Take class as PUC. Okay, under PUC we can create two more classes. One is the EBAC class, and another one is the PCMB class. See, this is the main class or the super class PUC. From this class, we are creating two more classes by name EBAC and PCMB. So this is actually called as inheritance. Come, we shall see point wise, one by one. What is inheritance? In PUC, the concept of inheritance in PUC, the concept of inheritance provides the idea of reusability. Okay, the concept of inheritance provides the idea of reusability. Once a class is present, making use of the class again, that is called as reusability. How can we make the class reusable? We shall see. Reusability means that we can add additional features to an existing class without modifying that class. Reusability. Okay, add additional features to the class and without modifying that class. See here, class is present without modifying. We are not changing anything here, but we are adding additional features to that class. Here, class is present. We are adding additional features to that class. This is called as reusability. Come the next point, what the inheritance says here. Thus the process of forming a new class from an existing class is called, what we call this as inheritance. Okay, inheritance. Okay, the process of forming a new class from an existing class is called inheritance. Two new classes are formed from an existing class. Here, two new classes are formed from an existing class. This process is called as an inheritance. And the last point here is under inheritance, or with the help of inheritance, the objects of one class, okay, the objects of one class acquire the properties of another class. Acquire the properties of properties of another class with the help of inheritance. Under inheritance, see, class 1. This one class, okay, objects of one class can acquire the properties of the next class. It means the objects which are present in one class may acquire the properties of the objects which are present under the second class or which are present under the next class. Okay, the objects which are present. I will give you one more example. Here, PUC is a class. It is containing object E, B, A, C. We think containing objects, but it is a class. And here it is containing P, C, M, B. These are four objects. So the objects which are present in class 1, that is EBAC, these objects can acquire the properties of the next class, just like PCMB. And look here, B is same under both the class. It means objects are, just I am giving an example. It means object of this class can be carried or acquired by this class, and the object of this class can also be acquired by this class. See, having same properties. So this thing actually called as an inheritance. Okay. And under inheritance, point, the existing class is known as superclass, and the new class is called as base class. Okay, the existing class is known as base class, and the new class is called as derived class. Is called as derived class. Okay, the existing class is called as base class, and the new class is called as derived class. Okay, so this is regarding the characteristic that is inheritance. Come to the next characteristic, that is overloading. Next characteristic here is overloading. The sixth one, overloading. Okay, what actually means overloading? Okay, the thing which you remember, that overloading means loading more than the capacity. Okay, in your bag, capacity must be there. If you load the books more than your capacity of a bag, that is called as overloading. Okay, but come, we shall see under this thing. Okay, object oriented programming, what is meant by overloading? Okay, overloading allows objects to have different meanings. Objects to have different meanings depending upon context. Okay, depending upon the situation, overloading allows different meanings. Okay, but here there are two types of overloading. There are two types of overloading. First one is object overloading. Sorry, first one is operator overloading. Operator overloading. The next one is function overloading. Function overloading. Okay, two types of overloadings are there. One is operator overloading. The next one is function overloading. Come first, we shall see what is operator overloading. What is mean by operator overloading? When an existing operator operates on new data type, is called operator overloading. Okay. I will give you an example. We will take integer type. Okay, this is an integer data type. 2 and 3. Then sum. Okay, sum means addition. Okay, sum equals 2 plus 3. Okay, sum equals 2 plus 3. Then answer will be which is equal to 5. This is an operator. Okay, it is working with integer data type. If the same operator at this time, if it is asked to use, okay, 1.5 plus 2.3, okay, which is equal to sum equals, okay, then sum 1.3, 1.5 and 2.3. Sum equals 1.5, 2.3. Okay, then sum equals 3.8. It means here operator plus, here is also operator plus. Firstly, the operator plus is working with integer data type. At the same time, this operator is asked to work with a float data type. Okay, an existing operator has to operate on a new data type, that is called as operator overloading. This is overloading on the operator because it is at first working with integer data type, and we have forced the same operator at the same time to work with float data type, that is called as operator overloading. Yes, it is possible. Operator overloading is possible. If you write a program for the sum of two numbers, then in that program you can use both the things at the same time in a program. That is called as operator overloading. Okay, I will give you a small example for this operator overloading. Okay, I'll start from main function. Main, okay, then integer type. Take a, b, okay, a comma b, two integer types, then float type, then c comma d comma sum. Okay, then main function taking integer type two numbers, then float type two numbers. After that, okay, c out, okay, add Okay, enter for a comma b comma c and d at the same time. Then c in, okay, a b c then d. Okay, after sum equals a plus b. Okay, one thing I have to do. Sum equals, here we will take add one more thing. Okay, add equals a plus b. Then sum, here sum is given, sum equals c plus d. Both are addition only. Okay, addition and sum, both are using the operator plus only. But here add, we are using integer type. In float we are using, but in sum we are using float type. So at the time C out, okay, add equals, then after that C in, I will write here C out, sum equals. Here what will happen? It is asked to enter A, B, C, D. For the value of A, we will enter 1. Then for the value of B, we will enter 2. Okay, this is integer type. Then at the time, add equals, it will give you the answer. Okay, here asked again, A, B. Then for C, I will give 1.5. For D, I will give 1. Because they are floating type, they are integer type. Then after that, then it will display add equals 1 plus 2 is 3. Then sum equals 2.8. Okay, this is called operator overloading using integer type and floating type. Integer type is present. Okay, operator operates on, it is operating on new data type, that is float data type. So this type is called as operator overloading. Okay, next come the second thing, that is function overloading. Function overloading. Okay, function overloading means two or more functions have same name, but differ in the number of arguments, or data type of arguments, See, function overloading means two or more functions in a class having same name. Okay, two or more functions in a class having same name, but differ in the number of arguments. Arguments of that function are different, or data type of arguments are different. Okay, look here. We will take in a class class student. Okay, under that private, under private we will take same char name. Okay, we'll take just one. Then under public we will take the functions having same name, that is get data. Okay, and also get data. Then close. Okay, get data and get data. But while writing the program for these same name functions, we will write differently. That is called as function overloading. So up to here, I think that you have understood the characteristics of OOPS, and we have left with only three characteristics, that is polymorphism, data binding, and message passing. After that, applications, limitations, and characteristics. In our next class, this chapter, that is basic concepts of OOP, will going to be completed. Hope you have understood till here. If you have any doubts regarding these things, you can ask me personally. Thank you.